All right, dudes. So something's just kind of up with all this. And I just want to say at the start, like, there's this kind of gaslighting that's going on against Monero people in regards to this whole Zcash thing. There's these people who are like showing up out of nowhere saying that you got to be more positive. Like, you can't be as skeptical and aggressive and, quote unquote, toxic as you've been because you're just not going to win if you're being too skeptical and you're being too critical. And this is like a theme now I see on my timeline. And there are these like Monero bros, so called, who are literally just popping up out of the woodwork, who literally didn't start tweeting until like a month ago. And they're trying to vibe check people and say, like, our community's being too toxic. And like, maybe that's why Zcash is winning because they're just more optimistic and nice. And it's just like, and then like you got all this astroturf stuff happening where like my entire timeline is just being dumped upon and rated by Zcash promoters. I mean, just something's fishy, dude. I don't know what to tell you, and I've got a lot to say here. We've got a lot of tabs pulled up. Something just isn't right about this. I'm sorry. Like, it just doesn't feel right. And we're going to go through some stats. We're going to go through some data, and just y'all let me know what you think. I always try to be open-minded about this stuff. And look, I want to let people know, and like my regular listeners know this, but I'm not a Monero Maxi. I've promoted other private cryptos in the past. I like Zano today, and just there's something off about this. There's something off about this. I don't like it. And we'll talk more about that, but I want to get to the private super chats first. Thanks for those. xmrchat.com/MoneroCPA. If you want to leave a XMR super chat, I'd appreciate it. Give you a shout out. Anonymous, about Zcash. Little by little, people are starting to demand private money. It makes sense for the system to push a quote unquote private corporate project they control. Yeah, and we talked about that in the last video, talking about how increasingly with the digital ID, with the threat of the CBDC worldwide, particularly in regards to stablecoins now, which is just another kind of CBDC as far as I'm concerned. And the crackdown on VPNs and pretty much everything we've seen over the last couple of months, people are starting to get it. People are starting to understand that there is going to be a crackdown on internet freedom. And we're seeing age verification stuff pop up, and you saw Pavel from Telegram, the Telegram founder, say just recently, like, I'm turning 41 today. It would otherwise be a good day, but frankly, I'm not vibing because internet anonymity and internet freedom is totally under attack. And with this ambiance now settling upon everybody in the world, people are now increasingly getting interested in these private cryptos, which is something that we had been predicting for years. And now that seems to be here. And it really does look like we're pretty close to this whole Mark of the Beast thing rolling out. And, Mexico recently just forced all of their citizenry into a biometric compliance system where everyone's got to submit biometric information. And the same thing's going on in Vietnam. You got digital ID stuff in the UK and Switzerland, and it's just like this whole thing's happening very quickly all of a sudden, and it's pretty concerning. And a lot of people are having their alarms rung about this, and people are getting interested in private tech, in particular private cryptos. And if you want to divert that inclination into something from Monero, then you may want to get them into something like a Zcash, where there aren't really many places to spend. The transaction privacy is optional, and other things we'll get to, right? But people have to understand that Monero is not just a coin. It's not just an arbitrary, like, oh, I'm going to the grocery store, we got pears here, we got apples here, and the apple just looks a little bit more tasty today. It's like not even like that. It's like Monero is an entire ecosystem. It's like the digital arc by which you can get away from the technocratic dystopia, which is coming in hot. And it's not only just about the coin, we have decentralized exchanges. We have many places where you can go to spend your Monero, many merchants that accept it. Hundreds of them on this website called Monerica.com. Many things you can buy on XMRBazaar.com. And then you also have, there's Doug's page. Shout out to Doug. But back to the homepage, tons of stuff here. So there's a whole ecosystem, and I don't have like the ecosystem pulled up, but like it's more than just a coin. And if people get psyoped into thinking like, no, you want to get into the most private crypto, and this one's easy to get because it's on an exchange, like just go into this one. It's like, that could not be beneficial to some people, and it wouldn't be beneficial to us. It wouldn't be beneficial to us as a collective if we're trying to create a parallel economy and get people into our ecosystem and, create this robust, anti-fragile environment where we can survive what's to come. So, yeah, it's a little suspicious all this is happening, especially after the Cubic attack, after many delistings from Monero, and this new rise in anti-digital tyranny ethos. Ztrash, you say, by the way, thank you for the super chat. Are scams pump the hardest, like drugs and gambling? They're fun until it's over, leaving you to face the consequences. Sad to see so much money lost in Pump.Fun. Now this forced liquidations. Yeah, I guess people are like trading 50x leverage, which is crazy. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, you're a crazy freaking person if you're doing that, bro. I mean, I don't even know what to say to you. I guess people got wiped out totally, like millions upon millions of dollars lost. I heard about some accounts that had like $100 million in it, gone. And bro, it's just like the president literally tweeted something and blew up the market. Like that's how risky this is. Like, are you insane trading 50x leverage when Trump is president? And this isn't an anti-Trump thing, but the dude is freaking volatile. Like, bro, he just picks up his phone and you could be blown up like you can't even believe. Now, inversely, you could blow up, to the upside. But dude, forget about it. You're not going to catch me doing that. So do that at your own risk. You're crazy if you're doing that, honestly. Like, just go to Atlantic City, get yourself a couple drinks, enjoy yourself at a craps table if you really got to have that high. Like, bro, this is not worth it. Crypto Cassandra, billions wiped out in 24 hours. Chinese year of the snake. No man can serve two masters. Matthew 6:24. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and God bless you. So let's get to some of these. Let's get to some of the commentary about kind of what's going on here, because you have a lot of people in the Zcash community accusing us of being toxic and whatever. And I'm not going to say that we don't have toxic elements. I think every community does. Some people say that we're especially toxic, whatever. Okay. But in regards to this, I think there is some warranted skepticism. And I really don't like people trying to gaslight us into being more positive. I don't appreciate that at all, especially when all this seems so obviously fishy. So that's kind of the state of where we're at, and there's this just exchange going on between Monero Bros and Zcash people about, just what is going on with your tech, with our tech. Some of it's ugly, some of it's constructive, but let's let's talk about this. Rogue One, Mr. Monero, this is a great tweet. You say to Zcash shills who are hating on Monero, the very foundation of Zcash's quote unquote optional privacy model collapses at the exchange level. When you buy or sell Zcash on any exchange, you're required to use a transparent address. Shielded transactions are outright rejected by exchange systems. To make matters worse, nearly all Zcash liquidity flows through KYC/AML exchanges. That's the crux of the issue. Okay. Like, we understand that if you buy something from a centralized, regulated exchange, they're going to record you buying the thing. And that's what some of the critiques of this tweet said. It's like, but we all understand that. The issue is all of the liquidity flows through these exchanges. Okay. And we're going to get to some people later who like wanted to talk about how Zcash is so fragile and like, or so anti-fragile. And, it's been around for such a long time. And like, I don't trust any new privacy coins. And yeah, you should be skeptical of new privacy coins that come around the block. But like, To call Zcash anti-fragile when basically all the activity takes place through these centralized KYC AML exchanges is a little bit of a reach. But that's the crux of the issue. Moving on. That means your quote unquote on ramp buying and quote unquote off ramp selling are fully visible on chain. The moment you acquire or liquidate Zcash, the transaction and your wallet linkage become public, traceable, and permanently recorded. So even if you move funds into a shielded pool afterwards, the entry and exit points are already exposed, completely undermining the idea of private wealth flow. In short, Zcash's privacy is broken by design at the points that matter most, where you interact with real world money. So here's the thing. If Zcash is not being adopted by centralized exchanges, if Zcash is not on Havana, for instance, I don't know if it's on BISC. I don't know if people use it there, and it's similar to the whole Trade Ogre thing. Like people told me after I said that it wasn't on Trade Ogre that it was. I never saw it. Like as far as I'm concerned, freaking Turtle Coin is getting more volume than Zcash on Trade Ogre. And how do you get into cash, right? If you're using Zcash, I mean, I guess maybe you could do a now payment, but if you do a now payment, are they going to demand a transparent transaction in order for you to, um, get into cash or get into a stable coin or something more liquid, right? Because most people who are getting into the stuff, they're going to be going on and off these exchanges, which have this KYC information. And if you're doing that, then what's the point of the privacy, right? Contrast this with Monero privacy by default. Monero doesn't leave the decision of choosing privacy with the user. Every transaction is private by default. Even if you buy Monero on a centralized exchange, your on-chain activity remains hidden. Your Monero wallet address, transaction graph, and amounts are never exposed. And crucially, Monero has robust decentralized exchange P2P options for completely private on and off ramps without KYC choke points. Yeah, and those 2 points are very important, right? It's again, we're talking not just about coins, but we're talking about ecosystems. Zcash doesn't have a lot of ways to get access or to earn, unless you're using a centralized exchange. It's just the reality of it. And Monero does. And a lot of people use them. Like the volume on Havana is insane. I think over $100 million has been transacted on Havana, which is no small number. It may seem small to like volume for Bitcoin, for instance, on an exchange out there, but that's kind of a lot for private money that you can't really get through centralized exchanges much these days. Zcash's quote unquote selective privacy is like a door with a lock that only works if you remember to use it, and most users don't. Monero's privacy, by contrast, is automatic, consistent, and universal, so you don't need to trust users to make the right choice. The protocol enforces it. And I think those are good points, Rogue One. Um, so let's talk about this guy. Gainsey, I don't know who Gainsey is, but I guess he's a popular guy. He made some things I want to address here, and we're having to put up with a lot of just either incomplete information or information which just really isn't quality in regards to where Monero is and where it's going and its comparative advantages or disadvantages with Zcash. So let's listen to this guy and
There is
see what
no
he has to
second
say.
Zcash.
Zcash guy.
Zcash is it. And with privacy coins, the most important thing is provenance. It doesn't matter if you made the best privacy tech; no one's going to believe you. The one thing that every coin needs to have is it has to be around for many years and it has to be anti-fragile. And you can't be anti-fragile if you were just created yesterday. So like, don't fucking show me some privacy coin and say it's going to be better than Zcash or Monero or whatever the fuck. No, it's not. It hasn't even existed. We don't even know if it's anti-fragile. We literally don't know if it can be hacked or not. By the way, all the privacy coins, or at least Monero, it has been hacked. I remember Monero nuking the shit because somebody was able to mint new Monero.
So people just like say stuff. It's kind of shocking. And, when did this inflation bug happen? And we're back to the whole inflation bug thing. You all, if you've been in this space, you've had to deal with this critique invariably at some point, right? Where it's like, well, Monero is a private blockchain. How do I not know that somebody has minted a bunch of Monero? And how do I not know that there's just an infinite amount of Monero out there that somebody just drips into the market? And we got this a lot when Monero was sitting at a price of like 150 bucks for like 3 years. I mean, it was just presumed that there was some fat whale out there or some dude who had figured out an inflation bug who just kept dripping Monero into the market to basically not alert anybody that they had figured this out, but also to make a presumed killing on the fact that he had figured this out. And there are game theory arguments that could be made as to why that's incredibly unlikely. But he said in an affirmative way that there was some kind of inflation bug. Now, we do know that there's an inflation bug for Bitcoin. I don't think that it was taken advantage of. I think they found it before somebody was able to exploit it. But no inflation bug, to my knowledge, has ever been found in Monero, ever. And so he just made that up. He just made that up. He didn't cite anything. I mean, Monero's price has plunged in the past because it's been delisted from exchanges, but there's never been an inflation bug that's been proven in Monero. Now he's going to retort and say, "Well, you can't prove it." And it's just like, "Well, how do you know then it happened? Just because the price plunged?" And that seems to be what he's alluding to. Well, the price just plunged, and so that just assumes that somebody figured it out. Well, if somebody figured it out, just think about this for a sec. If somebody figured out an inflation bug on Monero, do you not think that they would just freaking take advantage of it to the max before other people figured out about it? I mean, Monero is one of the most viewed codes in the world for anything. And if you found out an inflation bug, chances are other people are going to figure it out too. And that means if you're the first person to figure it out, you're going to have a tragedy of the commons type situation. You're going to want to exploit it and you're going to want to gain from it as much as you possibly can before other people do themselves. And so you're going to just freaking destroy the value of Monero and just get in while you can all of the action. Why wouldn't you? You wouldn't be just doing this drip, drip, drip. And if other people figured it out, then presumably you would have to conspire with those other people to, make sure that you manage the situation so that you could profit from it for as long as possible. But these things don't work in a game theory type way like that. Somebody's going to kill the network if they figure something like this out. It wouldn't stick around for this long, and it certainly wouldn't have gained in value, as much as it has over the last year, which I believe is more than Bitcoin. And so the whole thing is ridiculous. He's just making this up. And the whole thing about anti-fragile, what are you talking about in regards to Zcash? Who uses it? Okay, so let's get to some stats. Stats from wizardswap.io. This is from Orange Friend for the past 24 hours. XMR volume $830,000. Zcash volume 1,200 bucks. This is from Xenu. Regarding darknet adoption, the embarrassment for Zcash is not only that it isn't used on the darknet, this could just be an irrational economy, but rather how their community downplays the significance of such adoption, going so far as to say that it's meaningless. So it's not used on the dark web marketplaces. They say that, in many cases, they don't want it used on the dark web marketplaces because we're not trying to endorse criminality or whatever. Like they've actually said that. Perhaps this mindset is simply a coping mechanism, but this uniform response has reinforced the idea that Zcash is a corporate project that is averse to the large privacy economy, actively using peer to peer cryptocurrency in defiance of the state. So there's that. Um, this is from John Foss. Over the past year, Monero processed roughly 180 times more private transactions than Zcash's shielded pool. For every one private Zcash transaction, there are 150 to 200 Monero transactions achieving full on-chain privacy. Okay. And Untraceable, you have commentary on this. You say the importance of this cannot be understated. Monero is in use in the real world where consequences are real. Zcash is in use in a sterile lab-like environment by privacy tourists who don't really care about privacy. To them, Zcash is just the latest speculative meme. Let's see. Do I have other stats? Just okay. Yeah, I have one more. Coin cards. Not a single person has transacted Zcash on coin cards since the price pumped. Kind of weird for a coin that is at all-time highs. It's not technically at all-time highs, but it's the highest than it's been in a very long time. So when we talk about anti-fragile, just show me the ecosystem that exists for Zcash. Because here's the reality. We all know what would happen if Zcash was delisted from exchanges. Let's say that they went privacy by default, right? They didn't have optional privacy and they actually went default privacy and they were delisted from the exchanges. What would happen? It would end, basically. The project would be freaking over. Everybody knows that. And when I mean over, like maybe they continue to develop and whatever, but like when I say over, like the price would crash and people wouldn't get access to it because if you have to go through hoops in order to get private crypto, what crypto are you going to get? You're going to get the crypto that's being used by everybody else right now, which is Monero in circumstances that require privacy. You're going to want the most liquid private crypto. And, with full chain membership proofs coming, it's pretty much going to be on par with Zcash's shielded technology, except it's going to be private. So why would you get Zcash? We all know what would happen, I think, if Zcash did not have access to the centralized exchanges. And so, how can you say that it's anti fragile when it depends on these single points of failure, which are the centralized exchanges? Monero has proven that it's anti fragile because it's been delisted and not allowed on the biggest exchanges in the world where Zcash gets most of its liquidity. So,
Out of nowhere. And because it was a private coin, nobody knew they were minting it. All we knew was the price of it was nuking to shit. It can't be done anymore. I think the entire there's no more new Monero being minted, right? I think all of it's out in public, so But it would not hurt to buy, the speculative new privacy coins. Like sprinkle some money on those. Try to do like I don't know, 3x, 5x, 10x. Take the profit, move it back to Zcash, stack Zcash. I think stacking Zcash is going to be the new narrative. It makes
so he's just mooning out, bro. He's just mooning out. He's like, this is going to be a new narrative and 3x, 5x, bro. I
the
mean,
most
this is
sense to
just,
me.
I,
And
I
I
don't know.
genuinely, it's the first time in 8 years I've ever felt early to something on a long, on a long time frame. Nothing else gives me that feeling. And part of it's because
I don't know, bro. There's a lot of like feels and stuff here. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Um, and I also want to comment because like I'm not a tech guy, right? People like me and most people in general go off heuristics. We go off credibility and reputation. When the IRS has a bounty out for Monero and it hasn't been paid out, like that's a good sign that it works. When Monero is being used by people who would incur real world consequences if it didn't work right, um, that's a good sign. Um, the fact that a lot of privacy experts are bullish on Monero, not necessarily as far as price, but as far as use and future prospects, that's a good sign. Those are all things that somebody like me pays attention to figure out whether or not it actually works. And when it comes to Zcash, we don't have any of those things in many cases. Now, we do have some privacy experts who appeal to the efficacy of the privacy, but I need to see it trusted and I need to see people risk their life on it. That's what I need to see. I don't, like we see videos of like Zuku going out to buy cups of coffee. And he's just like, I just bought a cup of coffee completely privately. Like that's not what I want to see. I want to see somebody like I shouldn't say this, but it's like I want to see people doing like y'all know what I want to say, right? But like it's like I need to see a little action in the undercurrent when it comes to this stuff. Like I need to see people who are like going to go to jail if their transaction's seen. That's the kind of stuff I need to see cuz like that's heuristic to me. And I don't understand moon math. Like these people are proud of the moon math. That sounds cool, dude, but I don't understand moon math. And you can't sit me down for probably 10 years and have me understand it. Like I see some of these posts by these technically proficient people, and they obviously have a lot of pride that they can understand this stuff and try to communicate it. But dude, I'm sorry, like I don't get what you're talking about. And if you want me to trust your project, I need to have some idea that this works from people risking it all on it. Okay. And when I see stuff like this, I'm not very excited. Okay. When I see that this is from Cryptonator Leet 1337, CR 1337, Zcash, formerly Zero Cash, the Cypherpunk's Dream, brought to you by DARPA and the Israeli Ministry of Science and Technology. It's not what we want to see, dude. I really don't want to see stuff like that. If we look at seemingly who has financed and supported Zcash. Look at this list. Look at the list of sponsors. This is not community driven like it is in Monero. We don't have like CCS proposals here. We have Broadcom Foundation and Tel Aviv University. Okay, we have the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agencies, DARPA, and the Air Force Research Laboratory. We have Israeli Centers of Research Excellence. We have Israeli Ministry of Science and Technology, Office of Naval Research. I'm not very excited by that. Okay. And this isn't like some weird anti-Israel thing or anti-Semitic thing. Maybe it's a little bit of an anti-Israel thing, but it's like they put back doors in everything. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. I mean, they blew up like 1,000 people by sneaking bombs into pagers. Just one example. How about Pegasus? I mean, you could go on and on about the back doors they put into stuff. And I don't like the idea that they have been deeply involved in working on Zcash. Now, some people could say, well, go check the code. You won't find a backdoor there. And it's just like, I can't check the code. I'm an idiot. I don't understand moon math. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All I can go off are heuristics. And when I see this, I'm not a fan. I don't like it. And you could say that's stupid. Fine. But I'm going to keep using Monero because I don't like this, dude. And you know, we'll do a couple more tweets on this because, I had actually, in good faith, started asking questions. I want to know if Zcash has view keys for shielded wallets. Maybe you could use a shielded wallet, and maybe you could kind of have the same thing with FCMP. It's just like you're private by default in the shielded wallet at least, and you could have optional transparency with the view keys for the shielded wallet. And apparently, this is a thing. Great. And Daniel from Pirate Chain, he says, yeah, Pirate Chain's got that too. Okay, great. I like to hear it. And then somebody had posted and said, hey, by the way, this is like developed by the CIA, DARPA, and Israel. You may want to look into this. Just like, could you give me a source? And Body came with the receipts. And this is now going and making the rounds. Um, yeah, it's kind of ugly. And again, this is not some anti-Semitic thing. It's just like they put back doors and everything. You can't trust stuff which is made by Israel technologically. At least I don't. I don't. And Daniel Brummett, shout out to you, man. You just put out an article on this, the glowing ledger exposing Zcash. In the cryptosphere's shadowy corners, a coin whispers promises of privacy, but when you follow the money and power, you find that it was built on the very surveillance state it claims to defy. If you care about financial sovereignty, you've likely heard the hype around Zcash. It's touted as a technological marvel, a privacy coin for the modern age, but a deeper investigation reveals a far more sinister truth. Zcash is not a tool for liberation. It is meticulously crafted as an operation, a honeypot designed to herd privacy seekers into a controlled and monitored pen. From its origins to its promotion, everything about the project glows with compromise. Let's follow the trail. Unlike Bitcoin, born from cypherpunk ethos of an anonymous creator, Zcash was forged from the halls of academia and corporate boardrooms. Its creator, the for-profit zero-coin electric coin company, established a pattern for deep state entanglement from day one. The evidence is in the funding and the founders. The money trail, funded by the Pentagon in Israel. The foundational research for Zcash wasn't funded by grassroots. It was bankrolled by the architects of the global surveillance apparatus, the U.S. military and intelligence complex. The project received grants from the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the Air Force Research Laboratory, and the Office of Naval Research, and the Israeli government. Additional funding flowed from the Israeli Centers of Research Excellence and the Israeli Ministry of Science and Technology. Let's think about that for a moment. The technology powering a quote unquote privacy coin was paid for by the very entities that run Prism, Xkeyscore, and other mass surveillance programs. This isn't a red flag, it's a 5 alarm fire. Okay. The people behind the code are just as telling. Consider Aaron Tromer, a key architect of Zcash. Ecosystem of espionage. Tromer is a product of Israel's tech ecosystem, which is famously dominated and shaped by veterans of elite intelligence units like the renowned 8200 unit. The Unit 8200 Direct Intelligence Partnership. He co founded the crypto security company GK8 with Ian Levinon, explicitly identified as the former head of cybersecurity for an Israeli intelligence unit. This is not a coincidence, it's a pattern. The project was conceived with money from the surveillance state and built by individuals intimately connected to its intelligence arms. And it goes on. Okay, so look, and again, you could say that argumentatively, this does not mean that the tech is bad. I understand, but I don't understand the tech. I don't have that kind of privilege to be able to like audit this stuff myself. And you could call that ignorant, you can call that whatever you want, but when I see stuff like this, I'm never going to use Zcash. I simply can't. And even if it was a sound project, I'm not going to support a project that pays a dev tax to these kinds of entities, the same entities that are trying to put us into a digital concentration camp. I'm not going to do it just out of ethical reasons. I'm not. And there are some projects like Zano, for instance, which, has a pre-mine and does stake the pre-mine and that uses to fund the project. And I understand dev taxes being used to fund the project. And I understand that's a thing in the modern era now where it's like you gotta have a lot of money to get your project seen and whatever. Like it's a social contract to a certain instance, but like I'm not going to support this. I'm just not. If Monero is available, it could be the privacy is only marginally as good as Zcash, which after FCMP I don't think is going to be the case, but I will never, ever get involved in this project. If you've got these kinds of people involved in it, forget about it. I mean, aren't we supposed to have some standards here? Are we really trying to support people in this kind of environment here? Isn't this supposed to be kind of an anti-state and kind of an anti tyranny kind of thing we're in? And we're going to use technologies that are funded by these people. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to do that. I mean, does this make sense to anybody? Or am I just the only one? I mean, am I really going to be flamed for this by Zcashers? Like, oh, you don't want to support Israel and DARPA? You're not a cypherpunk, bro. It's just like, hey, this is a little ridiculous, isn't it? So we went through all this stuff. Um, there's also a problem in regards to the fact that it seems that um, most of the mining pools owned by one, or most of the mining is done by one pool via BTC.com, um, where most of the hash rate comes from via BTC.com. Seems a little problematic to me. I know Monero has had some pools almost go above 50%, and it was like an alarm. And the community adopted peer-to-peer pools and ways to adapt around that. But just nobody seems to think that this is an issue, which is a little strange to me. Um, Zcash is not fungible. You can divide the supply into clean unshielded coins, dirty shielded coins, and dirty unshielded coins. Came from shielded pool or had been involved in criminal activity. So yeah, that's another thing. You have the fungibility problem. Again, I'm not a fan of things being um, transparent by default. That's why I've never really supported Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of these other projects. And there's a lot of people in Monero who like Bitcoin, and I'm not one of them. I've never promoted Bitcoin a single time on this channel because it's transparent by default, and I have problems with that. Money to be fungible and good money needs to be private by default, just based on necessity. And Zcash is not that. It's pretty straightforward. Um, this person says if Zcash made shielding mandatory, it would become too difficult to trace, so many exchanges would delist it, destroying the purpose of Zcash, making money for early venture capitalists. We know this because Monero XMR never compromised on its privacy, so it was removed from almost all the exchanges. And what's funny is like these people want to say that like Monero is some kind of honeypot. These people from the Zcash community, which is obviously ridiculous. And it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, how come Monero got delisted from all the exchanges and your crypto didn't? Again, like it's like the heuristic factor isn't just relevant to these people at all. Do these things not mean anything? You know? I mean, I just don't get it. And I said if Zcash became default private, which is essential, in my opinion, then it would be delisted. If delisted, it would suffer an existential collapse since there's no fundamental demand in real world commerce that Monero doesn't already fill. Yeah, I mean, if it really was an equal playing field between Zcash and Monero, and neither were listed on exchanges, Monero would win. I think we all know this, don't we? Just because if you are the market leader in a privacy ecosystem and nobody has a problem with how things are functioning with your privacy technology, people are not going to arbitrarily switch. They're going to just keep going with what they trust because privacy is very important for people and people go with what they trust. It's not arbitrary. And when you have this kind of stuff going on, DARPA, Israel, and you have kind of untested technology there, and I don't mean untested like you're not doing work in the lab and doing research and whatever. I'm talking like real world, where people are risking everything on whether Zcash is private or not. Like it's just not going to work. It's not going to fly. This Jake guy, I don't know. Have you all seen this person? Who is this person? First tweet is August 24th, and he has 31,000 followers, and he's now one of the biggest voices in the Monero space. What is going on here? Can someone explain this to me? And I get it. Like he's trying to I don't know what he's trying to do actually. I always try to give the benefit of the doubt, but this is a little annoying. XMR is delisted on 90% of exchanges, no institutional support whatsoever, which means the community is the only thing you guys really have for marketing, not even close to being true. Spreading, what's good marketing is freaking working right. That's what good marketing is when your product works. It's not just like people tweeting on X. Spreading good vibes and showing that it's a great community is how it will push all time highs. I don't make the rules. Well, obviously, you don't know the rules because what makes Monero what it is today is people actually using it and trusting that it works. Like, I understand, like, we have an interesting community here on X, but that's what makes it work. If you want to be a productive part of the community, what I'd recommend is starting a business. Otherwise, just people aren't really going to give you a lot of cred, especially for saying stuff like this. So that's my tip to you, Jake. Um, let's cut it out on the whole vibe checking thing because that's going to annoy people, especially when you just literally came out of nowhere. Um, so, and then we have our lovely Vic saying, just asking questions, right? And I was going to do the same thing to be honest with you. I saw this post on Reddit involved a lot of technical stuff and is basically saying like, hey, somebody's got like this secret key still from the trusted setup and they could undo transactions. And I read that and I'm like, look, again, I'm not a technical person. I'm kind of curious to see what the Zcash people think about this. And Vic, he went ahead and did that. You know why? Because he's a curious guy and he wants to get to the bottom of stuff like anybody else does. And so he said, interesting comments on Zcash trusted setup comments. And you know what the comments were in response to this good faith question? This is embarrassing for you to be promoting and asking for other people to take seriously. Uh, and then this dude accused Vic of being a Fed for asking a question. Fed, criminal, or adjacent, does it even matter? Fair to assume Vic is on the take or collaborates. Like, bro. And we have like these kinds of people like Jake telling us we need to be more positive. And there are other people in this space who are doing the same thing, who are trying to gaslight us into like just kind of being cool with all this, man. Like it's totally fine that like this DARPA Israeli intelligence project is now like screaming through the market cap rankings at the exact time that everybody's looking for privacy in crypto. I just don't like, but I don't want to flame them because I know they're good people and they mean well. But like, would you please just kind of see where we're coming from here? Like, something just is not right about all this. I don't like it. I really don't like it. And yeah, I always try to give the benefit of the doubt to every project, and I want to better understand Zcash. But look, y'all have an uphill battle, man. And, trying to be antagonistic towards Monero people, trying to lie about our project, not even talking about full chain membership proofs and the benefits that is going to provide. You're just doing like, and talking about inflation bugs that have never happened or hypothetically may have happened, and just fudding, bro. And just like, and I understand, like, we have some toxic people on our side who aren't being constructive to the conversation. But like, let's just kind of be rational about this because, I think a lot of us do have the same inclination to build a parallel economy and use the best piece of technology that's available and to, kind of seek out the higher good if it's possible. But I'm sorry, just a lot of the stuff seems astroturfed. A lot of the stuff seems inorganic. A lot of the stuff just seems sketch. And I don't know that's happening for sure. And maybe it sounds like I'm fudding, but I think I have reason for my FUD. I think I do, man. Let me know what y'all think. And if y'all want to leave a private super chat for me to read on the next page, you can go to Monero CPA, leave a comment, leave a little Monero for your guy so I can buy a cup of coffee or something. I don't know. I don't drink coffee anymore. Did I tell you guys that? I quit caffeine. And I'm not trying to be like this whole like Karen or whatever where it's like I tell all my friends like, "Oh, I quit caffeine." Like it's just retarded kind of, but like I did, and it's actually made a nice change to my life. Much more relaxed and much more chill. My sleep is way better. Like even though I'm like working like 12, 14-hour days on average, it's like I have a lot of energy and it's very consistent. And I found myself still at like 2 o'clock in the morning, just like ready to go and get after it, even though like I can hit the pillow and go to bed like immediately. It's actually pretty cool. Um, so maybe try quitting caffeine if you're having sleep I don't need to go into a whole caffeine thing. Let's just end the video here. But yeah, leave a super chat, leave comments, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Let's get to the bottom of what's going on here and continue the conversation. God bless. See you later.